like to speak tonight. We are on Sunday, the beginning of the Sunday, 25th of May, 2014. I'd like to speak about Uranus, but not in the way most astrologers speak on Uranus. There are certain reasons to believe that Uranus was known in Antiquity because it was the 8th planet. One of the reasons is that Uranus is visible. You can see Uranus without telescope, which is not the case, of course, of Neptune or even of Pluto or even of these asteroids between Mars and Jupiter like Ceres, Juno, Vesta. But Uranus might have been considered in the past of mankind, and the idea of astrology based on 8 planets, whatever the word planet can recover, you know, that we call planet also sun and moon in astrology. The idea of 8 celestial bodies is very interesting because 7 is not a really a very pleasant number because it's not even. And there are also indications that astrology at a certain point was based on 8 divisions, what they would call the octotopos, which is also connected with Manilius. And I would like to develop these ideas, which I actually have exposed a very long time ago in 1976 in my book Keys for Astrology, which is translated in Spanish also, Claves de la Astrología, in 1979, I think. And structurally, the idea of having Uranus near Saturn in the zodiac, in the rulerships, Saturn in Capricorn and Uranus in Aquarius, for instance, is interesting. First of all, we know that astrologers tend to present, to define Uranus as a sort of anti-Saturn, Saturn being what is installed, what is agreed, what is accepted, and Uranus being the contrary of that. In the same way as at the opposite extreme of the zodiac, there is the opposition of sun and moon. The opposition, symbolic opposition, which is in fact, and this is a difficulty that we have already mentioned, they are neighbors, but they belong to opposite camps. Sun and moon are neighbors, but they are not in the same field. And there is a line, a frontier, between sun and moon, between Cancer and Leo, between Aquarius and Capricorn. And there is one also between Aries and Taurus, which refers to another period of astronomy and astrology when the zodiac was starting with Taurus and not with Aries. The line of the equinoxes was passing between Aries and Taurus. The line of the solstices was passing between Cancer and Leo. I've developed this in the past, and I will not return to that. I invite you to watch my previous videos on that point. So, it is obvious that 8 is more acceptable than 7 here. Although, of course, we know that 7 is important. For instance, when you divide the cycle of Saturn in 4, you have 4 times 7, etc. And the week is made also of 7 days. But still, I believe that the system in astrology of its 8 divisions is acceptable, is interesting. I believe, to return to rulership, which is one of my favorite subjects, as you know, that the rulership were probably initially organized according to 8 divisions. Neither, as you know probably, the houses were also probably organized in 8 sectors, in 8 divisions too. Patrice Guinard has written quite a lot on that subject. And you can hear also what he said in 2012 in one of the conferences I organized. And it is on YouTube. And I really believe that there is no reason why there isn't just the system of the exaltations, the old system of exaltations, which with 7 planets were dispatched between 12 signs. Doesn't make sense very much. It was not very attractive to have such a system with signs without any planetary attribution. So we have to start thinking that probably there were 8 planets for 8 signs, and that it is when they passed from 8 signs to 12 signs that the problem came and started to present itself, and that is when the system of the double rulerships, double houses, double homes, I don't know exactly how you say that in English. And the idea of giving to each planet 2 signs started to develop. But it was in fact to compensate the fact that for some reason they passed from 8 to 12 divisions. That's my main theory today, which I had never exposed before. So, I believe that astrology was initially based on 4 couples, which are Moon and Sun, Saturn and Uranus, Mars and Venus, and probably Mercury and Jupiter. And they were occupying the 4 angles, if you want to put it that way. And there was probably a moment when Uranus was rejected, and probably quite early. It was rejected quite early, but not as early as the origin of the stars. But there was probably a moment when Uranus could not be observed, or I would even say that the position of Uranus was lost. As you know, there is sort of secret like that. So it was lost. And they had to return to the idea, to accept the idea of 7 instead of 8 celestial bodies for astrology. is an important point. So you have a dialectic, a couple, you have of course a couple, Sun and Moon and etc. But you have also the opposite positions, and for instance Saturn opposite to Moon and Uranus opposite to Sun, which is very well known, with Aquarius being the exile of the Sun and Leo being the exile of Uranus. The French astrologers have been working quite a lot since the 30s, between the 30s and the 70s, and even later on, of course, about the question of rulership, which was always very intriguing for people who would make research in astrology. And it has an historical angle, which is not without interest either. So, you know that my aim is to reconstitute the different stages that through which astrology passed in its long history. It's rather complex, but you can do it. You can really achieve that sort of purpose by thinking a little more. Not a matter of discovering new documents, but to be able to analyze the document we have in a more efficient way, a more exhaustive way. And you also always forget something, or neglect something, and this is why we can continue the research. Okay. So, the idea of 8 is interesting. It's more sympathetic than the idea of 7. In the I7 you have Saturn opposite at the same time to Moon and to Sun, and since those two bodies are different from them by themselves, why should they be opposite to the same planet, the same force? Well, the word planet is not exactly the word I would use, as you probably know. I prefer to speak of symbols, I prefer to speak of gods, of energies, but not of planets. This is one of the major points of my work. That not astrology, has, when it's mentioned the stars, bodies, the celestial bodies, is not referring to planets. At start, at the beginning of its history. It's only later on, in the case of Uranus, much later on, it's only later on that the idea of attributing the astrological energies were projected upon the planets. I agree that it's a little complex to understand, but I think there is a sort of dialectic between observation of the planets, development of astrology, then returning to the astronomy. There is a sort of return, which is rather complex to analyze. Whatever. We know, you know probably that for me astrology was started to exist by focusing on one single planet, which is Saturn. So later on, probably Saturn, which would pass through the different gods. You know, so we can imagine that Saturn, for instance, was the course of Saturn was divided in eight periods, referring to the 8 gods, and without any reference to the planets. Although the planets might have influenced the system at an earlier level. Okay. So recently I really said to myself, oh, right, really? Why did they manage to have 7 planets for 12 signs? Really, why? What for? And I really started to think that it was not possible. You don't, if you look at the exaltations, it's very messy. You know? 7 planets, 12 signs. Doesn't matter. But if you start to think, well, why 7? Why 12 signs? Maybe 8 signs. Oh, if it's 8 signs, then why not adding Uranus, etc.? As a matter of fact, it doesn't matter really if Uranus was rediscovered in 1781. It doesn't really matter. What matters is that probably there was a consciousness that there is a astronomy. Well, let's see that astronomy did discover beyond. I mean, apart from the sun and the moon, did discover and the Earth, of course. Did discover 6 planets, which were without even name. You know, the mythological names came later on. There were 6 planets described differently. For instance, the red planet from Mars, or the white planet, but no mythology. So there were 6 planets, including Uranus, and 2 planets to make 8, which were Sun and Moon. You know, as we say, it's just an expression. And from these 8 planets, they decided to, for the predominance, for the priority to be given to Saturn. So this was the situation. Astrology takes Saturn, or whatever the name is. It doesn't matter it's called Saturn or not. No, Saturn is just a way to express myself. It probably was not even called Saturn. Like the planets probably were not